Imagine being an archaeologist and finding the most significant discoveries is the most fascinating work, as those things have never been seen for centuries. In today's video, we bring you some of the terrifying things that archaeologists have just discovered, and it changes everything. So buckle up, grab your popcorn, and get ready for watching some of the amazing and terrifying discoveries that archaeologists recently made. The endurance of Sir Ernest Shackleton's wreck. Sir Ernest Shackleton's name ought to be well known among travelers to Antarctica. In terms of exploration and navigation, his expeditions set several records, although they fell short of Roald Amundson's achievement of reaching the South Pole in 1911. Shackleton is, therefore, one of the most well-known historical characters from the so-called heroic age of Antarctic exploration, which roughly corresponds to the time between the end of the 19th century and the end of World War I. The Wreck of Endurance, a tribute to Shackleton's valiant but unsuccessful voyage, was ultimately found on March 5, 2022, while being explored by an expedition led by the Falklands Maritime Heritage Trust. 6 kilometers from the spot where Endurance first sank in 1915, it was discovered 3,008 meters under the surface. Lines of Nazca. The Nazca Lines, which are thousands of lines scratched into the earth, show creatures from both nature and human imagination. The creatures they feature are the spider, hummingbird, monkey, lizard, pelican, and even killer whale. Along with depicting plants, trees, flowers, and fantastical creatures of strange shapes, ancient artists also used geometric motifs like wavy lines, triangles, spirals, and rectangles. The Nazca Lines were first thoroughly examined and documented by Peruvian archaeologist Toribio Mejia, who had discovered them on foot in 1927. Each and every geoglyph may be seen from the ground, according to research published in 2007 that examined 1,500 drawings in the Palpo region. Copper scrolls, a treasure. Most of the so-called Dead Sea Scrolls were discovered by Bedouins and sold by antiquities dealers. However, this particular scroll was discovered by researchers, which was unusual at the time. The document's text was originally engraved on thin copper sheets before being sewn together in antiquity. The paper was, however, discovered curled into 2 distinct scrolls of badly corroded copper that were far too fragile to be unrolled. Scholars and specialists debated how to unroll the scroll for 5 years. Finally, they decided to use a tiny saw to cut the scroll into portions from the outside. They meticulously divided the scroll into 23 strips, each of which was bent into a half cylinder. One scholar claimed that the scroll was a list of hidden wealth before it was cut, because he thought he saw words like silver and gold. Sure enough, when it was decrypted, that scholar proved to be correct. Circles near the Middle East. Huge, nearly flawless stone circles that can be seen all over Jordan have been captured from above in unparalleled detail, giving researchers new information on the origins of the at least 2,000-year-old structures. Scientists have been perplexed by these enormous prehistoric stone circles for decades. The so-called big circles, which are dispersed throughout Jordan, range in size from 220 to 455 meters. The largest is roughly 3 times the length of an Olympic running track. They are fashioned with locally quarried stones that are no taller than about a meter. According to archaeologist David Kennedy of the University of Western Australia, their designs are too similar to be a coincidence, according to scientific writer Owen Juris of Live Science. Despite being dispersed around the area, archaeologists assume they must have served a similar role. Ancient mummification. Ancient authors, contemporary researchers, and the mummies themselves all contribute to our understanding of the Egyptian mummification process and its culture. Much of what we know about the actual process is based on the writings of early historians like Herodotus, who meticulously documented the process on his visits to Egypt in 450 BCE. This knowledge is being expanded by modern archaeologists and other specialists. Experts are discovering new information about the illnesses Egyptians experienced and their medical care by examining the X-rays or doing autopsies on unwrapped bodies. Studying the bones provides a more accurate picture of average height and lifespan. It is a little easier to understand the order and dates of the Egyptian monarchs if we know their ages at death. Lost city of Atlantis, a prosperous society that perished in the sea following a flurry of fire and earthquakes, was the subject of a narrative by the Greek philosopher Plato more than 2,000 years ago. Since then, that city has captured people's imagination as the mythical lost continent of Atlantis. It would only be fitting that when a new oceanographic institution started in Woods Hole, Massachusetts, 90 years ago, it would have the motivation and the capability to examine if this city actually existed. Since Maver's attempt, other reports of the finding of Atlantis ruins have appeared, but no concrete proof of its existence has ever been found. Few scientists today would risk their careers on an Atlantis quest, although more than 75 new publications have been released in the past 2 years. For the time being, the lost metropolis continues to exist, if only in people's minds. Hoard of gold in Staffordshire. With the publishing of the first significant academic study into what came to be known as the Staffordshire hoard, archaeologists have finally shared their findings about these intriguing topics and others after a decade of conservation and analysis. Chris Fern, the project's principal investigator, claims that what they found confirms the hoard's significance as without a doubt one of the greatest treasures of British archaeology and sheds new light on one of the most violent eras in early English history. What do you think of these? Comment below and subscribe for more.